David Burrows made these selections April 2nd of 2014, and he was just saying off air that the first one here at least made some sense back then. Now the world has changed a bit. Matador Resources, you're since out of this one, and in fact out of each of these picks here coming up.
So the job of an investor or a manager is to watch for change. And as you see change, be able to reposition your portfolios as required. If you go back to the summer of last year, US dollar started to blast off. And that happened at the same time as energy prices rolled over. So in our process, we use stops. We wound up getting stopped out of a lot of, well, virtually all of our energy exposure. And the producers were first. Matador was one of the first. So I think that we came out of that at about $25 or so. But that also had negative implications for the big global industrials, because of course they sell a lot of their stuff globally. And so the industrials were also a space which impacted one of our other major holdings.
Such as Microsoft, which you're still, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, United Technologies.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Let's do Microsoft.
So Microsoft was a foray into technology. We do have a small position in that, although we've broadened our way out into things like CGI Group, Palo Alto Networks, a lot of security-oriented software, and it's a great space to be in, and I think we'll continue to do very well.
There's a lot of talk that the U.S. dollar, which you were talking about, does affect the bottom line of a lot of these multinationals, like a UTX. So is that part of the reason you got out of this one?
Yeah. So if you look at the S&P 500, the top 20 or 30 companies have a very significant global revenue exposure, which is why I think you've seen in the last 6 months mid-cap stocks and smaller cap stocks start to outperform for the first time in a year. So we've moved down in size to focus on companies that are more domestically focused. Again, a lot of them are consumer driven, restaurants, retailers, consumer and leisure products. And so the big industrials globally are less attractive than they were.
So past picks once again, United Technologies, Microsoft, and Matador Resources. David no longer holds those for clients or personally or for himself or his family. Now, a question here, I'm just curious, you've said before you have lots of bells and whistles. You guys handle several billion, right?
Yes.
Bells and whistles in terms of the technology that you can use. How much do you use sort of graphical images as to where the flows are going, what's working, what's not, that kind of thing?
That's a great question. So there's three things that impact return. Get the asset class right, find the right sectors, and then find securities with something changing for the better. So our security selection process is very quantitative. We look for a combination of fundamental characteristics that point to something changing for the better. That's very nuts and bolts fundamental research. The structuring of the portfolios is driven by these breadth models that we talked about, identifying sectors or themes that are seeing inflows of capital. Like if the market rallies tomorrow, you want to own things that are going to participate, that people care about now. And so in a healthy market, percentage of stocks doing well expands. So we use graphical tools to help us measure that, because our job is to find good ideas, but then structure portfolios that are relevant in the current market. You can find a great company at the wrong time and lose your shirt. So the two sets of tools are quite rules-based, but they really help us to make decisions in a unemotional way.
So I'm picturing you glancing at these several times a day, heat maps and color-coded kinds of things?
We run these processes daily. We have a fellow on our team who literally was a Russian rocket scientist who designed the command and control system for the Russian satellite.
So it is rocket science?
Part of it is executing, part of it is being able to monitor, and then having a good sell discipline for the things that don't work.
Great stuff. Okay, thanks, David. A little bonus commentary from David as to how he handles money and makes decisions. We'll come back and we'll keep taking your questions on North American large caps.